Today I'm going to show you how to make your own homemade ice cream. I'm going to do a coffee flavor today, and I'm also going to post the recipe for a vanilla flavor in the blog so you can see how to do both of those. And if you want other flavors besides those, there's a link at the bottom of the blog where you can find some different flavors. Otherwise, you can always just hit me up and I will send you my other favorite recipes. The first part of this recipe is to start with a small bowl of cornstarch, and then we're going to add a little bit of our measured milk. So you want to go ahead and measure the milk for the entire recipe, and then you're just going to take a couple tablespoons out of that and put that into your cornstarch. And then we're just going to mix that together to make a little slurry. And we're going to set this aside and let that cornstarch hydrate while we put the rest of the recipe together. So you just want to make it nice and smooth. That's good. Save that. The next part of the prep is to take your softened cream cheese and add the salt to it. So I just have some pink Himalayan sea salt here. That's just going to go right into the cream cheese, and then we'll stir those together. You can see that my cream cheese isn't actually that soft just yet, so I'm just going to set this aside. While I put the rest of my ice cream base together, I'm just going to let that keep at room temperature and just keep softening up. The next part of the recipe is to cook the base. So the base is going to be made up of the milk, the cream, sugar, and the corn syrup. I just put on a medium-high heat for the saucepan. I'm going to put that milk in here. I'm going to add the cream to that. I'm going to add the sugar and corn syrup, and I usually don't pour this into the measuring spoon because it's really hard to get the whole thing out, so I just kind of eyeball how much that would be. I'm just going to stir this, and I'm going to let it come to a boil, and then it's going to boil for 4 minutes. We've reached the end of our 4 minutes of having our milk mixture at a rolling boil, so I'm going to turn off the heat. Since I'm making coffee ice cream, I'm going to add the grounds. So I just want to take that off of the hot burner. I just have some coarse coffee grounds right here. I'm just going to pour those in. Get them mixed up, and then we're just going to let that steep in there for 5 minutes. The coffee grounds have been steeping in this milk and cream mixture for 5 minutes, so now I'm going to just strain out the coffee grounds. The recipe calls for just a simple strainer with a piece of cheesecloth over it, but I actually don't have any cheesecloth here, so I'm going to improvise and use my yogurt strainer, and we'll see how this goes. So I'm just going to pour this through here. It just needs to catch those coffee grounds so you don't have those crunchy beans in your smooth coffee ice cream at the end. And I'm just going to work these grounds a little bit so they can get released and allow all that milk mixture to go through. So there we go. I got all my coffee grounds up here in the filter. So put that milk mixture back into my saucepan. I'm adding the cornstarch slurry to it. And we're going to bring this back up on the heat until it's thickened for about 1 minute. So this milk mixture was just back on the heat for 1 minute with the cornstarch slurry mixed into it, and you can see that it has started to thicken up. So it's time to remove it from the heat and then add that cream cheese and salt mixture. So before I add it into the big pot, I'm just going to take some of this mixture and put it in with the cream cheese. So I want to get this little part nice and incorporated and smooth before I put it into the big pot, because that's just going to help reduce the amount of stirring that I have to do and reduce the clumps that I might get from this cream cheese. So now that I have that incorporated and smooth, I'm going to add it back into this big pot so I can get it all mixed together. That's it. It's all nice and incorporated. The next step is to pre-chill your milk mixture before you put it in the ice cream churner. That's just going to help the churning go a little bit easier. And if you have an ice cream churner that has a built-in motor, it's going to help save the life of that motor too. So you want to just pre-chill this. You can pour it into a Ziploc bag. I have these Stasher bags that have that nice pop-up bottom on it, so I can fit a lot of liquid in there. So I'm just going to squeeze out the air, close that up. There we go, get it nice and sealed. And I'm just going to dunk it into this big bowl of ice water. It's just going to sit for 30 minutes to pre-chill. Ice cream mixture has been chilling for a half an hour in that ice bath. So I'm going to put it now into the ice cream churner. And if you don't have an ice cream churner, that is okay. You don't absolutely need to have one. I'm going to give you some options in the blog for what you can do to substitute an ice cream churner. Goes right in. See that it has a mixer on it, and then this whole thing is refrigeration or freezer unit. So I'm just going to start that. And we'll come back and check it in a couple minutes. This ice cream has been churning now for about 30 minutes. I just want to show you what it looks like. So as I pull that up, you can see it's still pretty liquidy. I'm going to let it keep churning for maybe another 30 minutes and then we'll check it again. This ice cream has been churning for an hour now, so I'm just going to check it out here, and it looks really nice and thick, and it is starting to freeze up. So I'm going to stop that churning, pull this paddle out so I can clean it off. And at this point, you could just enjoy this as soft serve. So these are 4-ounce canning jars, and what I like to do is just put the ice cream right into these 4-ounce jars. And when I want a serving of ice cream, I'll just go in and pull this out because it's already portioned, and then I don't have to scoop it out of a large container. You certainly can put it in a large container, and if you do, you want to just make sure it's freezer safe, and you're going to lay a sheet of parchment paper on the top of it and press it right down to the surface. That's going to prevent freezer burn of your ice cream. If you're doing this with just a single serving, you want to actually make sure that you leave just a tiny bit of space in case it expands a little bit. How's that for a cute little single serving of ice cream? Okay, so then there you go. I'm just going to go ahead and fill up all the rest of my little jars, and then we'll be all finished.